Good evening, everyone. Happy Sabbath. Oh, I can't hear you. Let's try that again. Happy Sabbath. Is everyone happy to be here tonight? Amen. We're so happy that you could join us tonight for this evening and this entire weekend, actually, for Health Emphasis Weekend. We're glad that you could be here, and we just ask you to sing along with us now as we get Sabbath started with our very first song. And it will be on the board.
Nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but only trust in Jesus' name. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but only trust in Jesus' name. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. My anchor holds within the veil. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When He shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in Him be found, dressed in His righteousness alone, faultless stand before the throne. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for, to be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living Lord. Your presence, Lord. I tasted and seen the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for, to be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for, to be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. to see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you.
Please stand.
Oh, to Jesus I surrender all. To Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust in His presence daily live. I surrender all. I surrender all. Oh, to Thee, my blessed Savior, I surrender all. Oh, to Jesus I surrender. Humbly at His feet I bow. Worldly pleasures all forsaken. Take me, Jesus, take me now. I surrender all. I surrender all. All to Thee, my blessed Savior, I surrender all. All to Jesus I surrender. Make me Savior, wholly Thine. Fill me with Thy love and power. Truly know that Thou art mine. I surrender all. I surrender all. All to Thee, my blessed Savior, I surrender all. All to Jesus I surrender. Now I feel the sacred flame. Oh, the joy of full salvation. Glory, glory to His name. I surrender all. I surrender all. All to
us pray. Father in heaven, we praise you from whom all blessings flow. As the deer panteth for the water, so does our soul longeth after you. Lord, I just ask that as we worship here tonight, as we come together on your holy Sabbath day, that you will have a special blessing for us. And that everything that is done here will be to your name's honor and glory. That you will be high and lifted up and glorified. We commit this service into your hands. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Happy Sabbath, family. Happy Sabbath. It's good to see your smiling faces in spite of the weather outside. Amen. This weekend promises to be an amazing one. And just want to take the opportunity to welcome each and every one of you to our special Health Emphasis Weekend. This is the service or the meeting that kicks everything off. And it promises to be wonderful. I want to take this opportunity also to, on behalf of Pastor Paul, sends his regrets for not being able to be here, but that his heart is here with us. So I just want to let you know that. Now, it's my opportunity to introduce the speaker, but just before I do, there was a gentleman that stepped up here and prayed, and his face may be unfamiliar to most of you here. This is our practicum student, you can stand, that'll be with us for the next 6 weeks. Jamie Joseph from Berman University. And so he'll be with us, with me, with Pastor Jose and Pastor Paul. So like we did with the last practicum student, let's work him to the bone. Work him. I'm just playing with you. So he's going to be with us, and he's a tremendous personality. He has a wonderful testimony. I'm sure he'll be a blessing to us. Now, Dr. Darlene Blaney is an individual I had the chance to just meet upstairs, and she is unique in the sense that she has a PhD in nutrition, and she's also a certified fitness instructor. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And she also is the owner and instructor of the Total Health School of Nutrition. And this school actually offers a diploma in nutritional counseling. And essentially, she's an expert on all things nutrition, but also things dealing with fitness in the body and to basically achieve optimum health. And so I'm going to be basically attentively listening to every word because it'll benefit me personally and my family as well. Now, she's also the author of 4 books, including the actual CHIP nutrition guide that we use as a church. She's also married to her husband, Ron, for 28 years. And he's actually the volunteer health director of the Alberta Conference for the past 20 years. And so the family is immersed in health. And in fact, you have 2 sons? Just 4 sons? Okay. And I actually heard that is one getting married next week? Amen. Amen. One of our sons is getting married next week. What's his name? Reuben. Reuben's getting married next week. So we can pray for that. So enough said, but I hope and pray that you'll allow God to position your hearts and your minds to receive a blessing. We have been told that the health message is the right arm of the gospel. So let's embrace it as we hear Dr. Darlene share with us tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Well, it is a rainy night, but it still pulled a few of you out. And sometimes we have to make our own sunshine, don't we? So that's what we're doing. It's a pleasure to be here. My husband is actually from Ontario. He's from Hamilton area. Stony Creek, actually, was where he was raised. He came to what used to be CUC, College Heights University in Alberta, met me, and that's where he stayed. So he wanted to come with me and enjoy this weekend with you all, but it didn't work. We have a health food store as well, and so someone needed to kind of hold down the fort, and that's what I am grateful that he is doing for us. So this evening, my topic is called Boosting the Immune System Naturally. So some of the stuff I share with you might be a review for you, and you might have heard of it before, but hopefully there will be other material tonight that'll be new to you, and you'll be able to implement that in your life as well. So we will begin. So when it comes to the immune system, in most cases, it's because we want to fight off that illness that is floating around our workplace, our school, our community. And aside from practicing good hygiene, what are some other boosting things that we can do for the immune system? Your immune system is like an orchestra. Like an orchestra, your immune system has many different instruments, and they must each play their part at the right time. If one is off, suddenly a few of them can go off until pretty soon we don't recognize the song. Your immune system is responsible for fighting foreign invaders to your body. So bacteria, viruses, right? Even cancer. The cells of your immune system, I won't go too much into this tonight. I won't bore you with too much of the anatomy and so forth, but just to mention a couple of things here. Your immune system has a number of cells that work as part of it. So the first one is the phagocytes. This is a group of cells specialized in finding and eating the bacteria, the viruses, and dead or injured body cells. And there are 3 types of the phagocytes. So the first one is the granulocytes, and this is what is first on infection. So when you see a cut and it begins to get infected and there comes a little bit of pus, that is made up of these granulocytes. The macrophages alerts the rest of the immune system. It's the alarm, the siren that's going off and saying, we have invaders, we need help. And then the dendritic cells known as the eater cells, filtering foreign organisms and particles. So our lymphocytes, they are originated in the bone marrow and then migrate to the lymph system. And so our lymph system feeds cells into the body and filters out the dead cells and the invading organisms such as bacteria. So there's the T cells and the B cells. And these are what we call memory cells, so that they can recognize an invader and wipe them out as soon as they begin to enter the body. Your helper T cells now, they are the major driving force and the main regulators of the immune defense. So the primary task is that we have to activate these B cells and the killer T cells. There's a lot of cells, aren't there, here? And sometimes it's hard to keep these all straight. But it really makes you realize how we were not created very simply, were we? You know, there's so much detail in the body. You know, there was a great mastermind behind our creation. That's the creation of us. So our killer T cells are what literally they live up to their name. They go out there and they are killing any virus-infected cells, cancer cells, bacteria. They are your soldiers of your war, fighting for you. I'm just going to jump ahead there. So overall, your immune system does a remarkable job of defending you against disease. Occasionally, though, a germ will invade and make you sick. And so again, once again, just like that orchestra, in order to function well, it requires balance and harmony. So we've got all these cells working on our behalf, fighting for us, building our immune system, taking care of our health, but occasionally these little germs can still filter in. And so in some cases, we will get sick, but if we can have our defenses up, the body can attack it very quickly. And we don't have to be sick for as long, perhaps, or we can overcome it easily. But in order for that to happen, we have to give our bodies what it needs to pull from to be able to make sure the immune system is at its fullest force. So here are some ideas that we're going to go through. And the first one is to not smoke. And so we know that smoking will weaken the immune system. It'll depress the antibodies and cells that are in the body to protect against these foreign invaders. Many cancer-causing chemicals are in cigarette smoke. So not only what you're smoking, but secondhand smoke can actually even be more detrimental to you than the person even smoking sometimes. So it's a different chemical and that can actually accumulate in secondhand smoke. So it can be just as damaging to our bodies as the smoker. The second one is to avoid alcohol. So excessive alcohol intake can harm the body immune system in two ways. First of all, it produces a nutritional deficiency. And so it deprives the body of valuable immune-boosting nutrients. Secondly, like sugar, if consumed in excess, can reduce the ability of your white blood cells to kill germs. And so I'll explain that a little bit more as we go on when it comes to the idea of sugar, because here I'm saying like sugar, right? And so that's why alcohol is one of the contributing factors towards diabetes as well. And tomorrow afternoon, we'll talk more about some of the diseases, how to prevent and reverse and that type of thing. And diabetes will be one of those. So high doses of alcohol suppress the ability of the white blood cells, which is the cells for your immune system, to multiply and inhibit the action of killer white cells on cancer cells and lessen the ability of macrophages to produce the tumor idea. So I'm not going to go into the different cancers because in general, if we know it causes cancer, of course, some are higher risk and some are more difficult to reverse or to get rid of. But in general, if it causes cancer, we want to stay away from it, right? I mean, none of us are going to sit there and say, well, you know what? It only causes 30% of liver cancers. So, if it was, maybe 75%, it really doesn't matter. If it causes cancer, we want to stay away from it, right? When one part of the body is sick, it damages the whole body. The whole body is under attack. So the third one, again, we're going to go a little bit deeper into these areas tomorrow afternoon, and exercise will be one of those. But exercising regularly will build the immune system. A lot of times we think of exercise as weight loss. If I need to lose weight, I need to exercise. But we don't realize we need exercise to live. And we need exercise to stay well. And so exercise will strengthen our immune system. But did you know if you push yourself too hard, it can actually weaken your immune system? I remember when I first met my husband, he was a jogger, and he would go jogging every morning. And you know what? I was slim, I was trim, I was underweight probably, and I just grew up thinking that exercise was only if I became overweight. So I didn't need to exercise. So my husband would jog, and he wasn't overweight either, but I just figured, well, he must obviously have a risk that he will become overweight if he doesn't exercise. Whereas for me, I figured I could eat anything and everything, and it didn't matter. And so I was quite tired, and I used to work as an ophthalmic technician. As some of you might have heard of Dr. Gimbel, I used to work for him. And so I would walk through the day at the office there, sometimes 12 hours, 14 hours straight. And I'd come home exhausted. And I'd wake up, my husband would be staring at me, and he'd say, no supper tonight? And I'd say, oh, I'm just so tired, And he'd say, you know what, you need to exercise. And I thought, well, what does he think I do all day? Just sit there and put my feet up. So I got a pedometer and I put it on, and I wanted to show him how many steps I did every day to prove to him that I'm not sitting there with just my feet up on the desk. And so I would show him, and he'd go, yeah, but you still need to exercise. And this started to irritate me. And so finally I said, well, you want to exercise? Let's go. Let's jog. Let's go. So out we went, and I started to follow him around where he would normally go. And we went down a few blocks and around a few blocks, and all of a sudden I realized I am going to die before I make it back. And I can't let him know that I am exhausted. And so I came up with an excuse that I'm holding him back and he should probably go on. And so I just had pushed myself running really fast that distance and kind of kept pushing it all the way until I got home, and I started to cough. And I coughed and coughed and coughed until the next day. And that's what can happen. If you push yourself too hard, instead of a benefit, it can actually do the opposite. And that's what happened to me. And so that day, something changed. I realized I needed to exercise, and that we all need to exercise. Even though you're very active at your job, at work, exercise is different. Exercise needs to be something that relieves you of your stress. Unless your work relieves you of your stress, you need to exercise. It should be stress releasing. And then in that case, when it's stress releasing, you know that it's building the immune system. If it's causing stress, you know that it's going against your immune system. Okay, so, and I should mention the bottom one there, exercise slows the release of stress-related hormones. A stress-related hormone is called cortisol. And when you are stressed, your body makes cortisol, and it'll go through the bloodstream, and it'll actually cause damage. Have you ever woke up in the morning, and you get out of bed, and you're just so sore and stiff, and you kind of go, wow, I think a truck hit me, and I didn't see it in the night. Have you ever felt that way? That is the effects of cortisol. So what is the purpose of going to bed at night? It's for rest, right? Rejuvenate, right? To heal the body, restore. And so if you go to bed with cortisol pumping through the bloodstream, instead of resting and restoration, it is actually damaging your body. And so a good idea is at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be right before bed, but sometime in the evening, go for a brisk walk, just 15-minute brisk walk. And that is the only way to pump that cortisol out, by pumping out the old blood and getting fresh blood going. And that'll get rid of the cortisol. So when you go to bed at night and you sleep, your body can heal, it can repair, and you will feel more rested in the morning. We know that exercise helps prevent cancer. We also know that exercise can help reverse cancer. So that shows us the direct link of exercise on the immune system, doesn't it? Number 4 is maintain a healthy weight. You see, excess body fat can tip the balance of a healthy immune system, and it can start to harm instead of protect the body. It can affect the ability of the white blood cells to multiply, to produce the antibodies, and rush to that site of infection. So scientists have known for some time that excess body fat, particularly in the abdominal area, triggers the production of so-called pro-inflammatory immune cells, which circulate in the blood and promote inflammation in our bodies. So one of the diseases that comes to mind usually right away when we think of a disease created from inflammation is arthritis, right? So people who have arthritis especially need to be within their weight category. Other inflammatory immune cells, such as the macrophages, again, are also turned on within the fat tissue. And we know that this can lead to types of cancer, and particularly even type 2 diabetes. It's not just the amount of fat that is important, but also its origin. It's important to include plant-based oils in your diet that specifically include the right balance of what we call essential fatty acids. Some of you might have heard of omega-3 and omega-6. Have you heard of those terms? So omega-3 and 6, especially 6, can be found in a variety of foods, such as our beans and our leafy greens and some of the more common foods that we might eat. But omega-3 is a little bit more difficult to get, and so we have to work a little harder to achieve that. And two of the most powerful foods potent in omega-3 are flax seeds and walnuts. And that's the reason you hear a lot of hype about flax seeds. But walnuts are just as high or higher than even flax seeds. And do you notice what they look like? A brain, right? Yes. And that's, again, quite amazing. Or is it coincidence that a walnut looks like a brain? And we know omega-3 directly nourishes the brain. And not just any part of the brain, but the very frontal lobe of your brain, where your character resides, where your will resides, right? And your spirituality resides, all in that frontal lobe of the brain. So very few people realize that the essential fats are crucial to the health of their own and their children's immune system. They are called essential fats because your body cannot make them. They have to come from the food that you eat. So if we're not taking in enough, we're always going to be low in omega-3 fats. Now, I'll give you a little bit of a symptom that can happen if you're low in omega fats. If you take your hand and put it behind the back of your arm, and if you ever feel a few little sort of tiny little bumps on the skin, that shows a lack of omega fats. And for children, if they get a whole bunch there, and it starts to come across their cheeks, that shows they're even that much more low in omega-3 fats, and we just need to increase those. We'll talk more about fats tomorrow, and I'll show you some charts of the different foods that have some of these omega fats more in them. But I will mention many children today are diagnosed with ADD, and they do not have ADD. They actually have an omega-3 deficiency. And if you can increase in that omega-3, you'll see the hyperactivity come down and the learning abilities go up. And why? Because remember, that walnut nourishes the brain, right? And the child who has low omega-3 has an undernourished brain, which can cause symptoms of ADD. And so many of these children end up on, Ritalin and some of these prescription drugs when all it is a need of extra omega-3 in their diet. Okay, number 5 is control blood pressure. Again, we're just going to talk more about this tomorrow, but we know, first of all, the first little thing there is talking about chronic stress. And stress in our world today, I don't know anyone who has no stress in our world today. Our world is just full of stress. Even if your family life is not stressful or your work is not stressful, just even going out and driving on the road or shopping with people surrounding you who are stressed will affect you. You will feel that stress coming off of them onto you. So we're all, we're all wrapped up in some form of stress. And we know stress will do a lot of damage to the body. In fact, scientists have taken red blood cells, put it under a microscope, and can actually watch those red blood cells disfigure and change shape from stress. So we know stress has a direct negative link on the body. But chronic stress, of course, can increase our risk of high blood pressure. And so when our blood pressure is up as well, I should say when it comes to one of the things that can raise our blood pressure would be high salt intake as well as the stress. And so certain types of B cells or the immune cells produced excess antibodies in response to these stresses. And T cells seem to contribute to the development of various forms of hypertension as well. So studies showing that hypertension has become another autoimmune disease. So we don't think of high blood pressure as an autoimmune disease, do we? But that's exactly what happens. We get stressed, our body attacks itself, our blood pressure goes up. So we can treat all autoimmune diseases in the same way that we can stop whatever is causing our body to attack itself and reverse those situations. So can high blood pressure be reversed? In many cases, definitely it can. It can be reversed in as quickly as even 4 weeks sometimes. Number 6 is get adequate sleep. So we talked a little bit already about stress causing the stress hormone cortisol, and so you want to pump that out of your body so you can have an actual restful good night's sleep. But your body is also on something that is called a circadian rhythm. Your body is on a 24-hour cycle. And if we're not going to bed on time and getting up at a good time, that throws that circadian time rhythm off, and that will also affect our immune system. Your body needs sleep to fight infectious diseases. And, you know, I'm sure some of you have even experienced, at least the people who tend to rely on sleep more than others, but if they get behind in their sleep, they might catch a cold suddenly easily, right? So it has that direct link as well. So infectious fighting antibodies and cells are reduced during periods when you don't get enough sleep. And so it just pulls down your immune system. 7 would be get plenty of fresh air. Without oxygen, what happens? Our cells die, right? We need oxygen in 3 minutes, as it is one chemical essential for the cells to create energy. Fresh air cleans the lungs and helps to bring in more oxygen into the cells and will increase that cleansing action of the lungs. So this goes along with exercise. If we can exercise in the fresh air, now we're going to get double benefit. And practice breathing deeply. If we're breathing shallow, we're not going to get that deep, fresh air deep into our lungs to be able to cleanse our lungs and be able to recycle that air and get the fresh oxygen in. Where there is oxygen, disease cannot grow. Did you know that? So a lot of times people treat even cancer with oxygen because cancer cannot grow in oxygen. So making sure our body is high in oxygen. And so we know fresh air purifies the blood, makes it a brighter color, and will send that oxygen in the blood to every part of the body. Number 8 is wash hands frequently. And I'm sure you've heard this many times as well, but sometimes we don't think a lot about it. We think, okay, if we go in the washroom, we'll wash our hands. But if you don't go to the washroom, we don't think to stop and just go and wash our hands. But when we're touching things all the time, especially if we're going shopping or grocery shopping and or in public places, that is a great way that germs can spread very quickly. And in fact, I don't think I'll be showing it tomorrow, so I'll just mention it. I think it is called, trying to think of the title here in case you want to actually pull it up on YouTube. I think it's just Worm in Lady's Brain. And it's actually this lady that ended up having to have surgery, and they thought that she had a tumor in her stem of her brain. And when they went in to do surgery to pull it out, it actually ended up being a worm, a parasite. And they have found that it comes from pork. And they're saying now you don't have to eat that pork, but this little pork parasite, if it's on somebody's hands and you happen to put your hands where theirs were, you can get this parasite. And it's interesting, when I have traveled and spoke at various places, I'll ask if anyone knows somebody who has had a serious parasite. And in most cases, there's usually at least one person that knows of someone that has had it in their brain or in their heart. And so it's no longer just something out there when some say, well, do you believe in parasites? It's definitely out there. It's scientific and it's medically proven. And pork, unfortunately, is something that we always knew of, the trichina worm. And if you cook it really well, supposedly it would kill this trichina worm. But now we're knowing there's other parasites that'll just come through the skin. So washing our hands often is important, because I believe we're going to end up seeing more and more of this type of bacteria and things coming new to us as time goes on. Drink plenty of water. I will harp a little more on this tomorrow, but again, this is a great way of making sure that oxygen is getting into the bloodstream as well. But water is a form of cleansing. It allows your kidneys to remove toxins from your body. It allows your cells to take in the nutrients, and it allows them to expel waste products. So some people that are really low, when I see a client and they're very low in all their different vitamins and minerals and they have malabsorption, it can be just because they are dehydrated. And if they drink more water, now they can absorb the nutrients from their food. If you don't drink enough water, toxins will build up, and of course, again, will weaken your immune system. So when you are sick and you have a cold or something, this is where you want to just saturate your body with water. When you have a cold, just drink lots of water constantly. I know a lot of people that go for the orange juice, and that's great. It has your vitamin C and A and whatever. But the water will nourish, but also detoxify, and it's more important to detoxify. So water even before orange juice when you are sick. All right. So the lymph in your body functions in the body for these things. It carries the water and the nutrients to the blood and through the blood to the cells of the body. It carries the white blood cells and other immune system cells from the thymus and the bone marrow throughout the body, and it removes the toxins from the blood. So your body needs water in order to produce lymph. So in order for lymph to do its job, you need to have water. And without water, you don't have the lymph, and without lymph, your white blood cells and other immune cells would not be able to travel throughout your body to fight the disease. One of the benefits of drinking plenty of water is it keeps your digestive system strong. And so, again, we talked about the absorption of the nutrients, but it also helps in the way of building hydrochloric acid in the stomach, preparing for that meal to come, so that is a reason for the absorption increases. But it also helps cut down on the gas and the bloating and the heartburn and the acid reflux and all that type of thing as well. Drinking plenty of water ensures that your cells will get adequate nutrition from your blood. So, just because we drink the water, it also makes a difference what food we're putting in, right? Because you can't absorb the nutrients if you increase the water if you're not eating food that's high in nutrients. And so we want to eat a good balanced diet. And your immune system requires lots of good vitamins and minerals, and this can only come from eating fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds and all the above that we'll be talking more of. So we know poor nutrition has shown the result of increased infections, slow healing from injury and infections. And you know, it's interesting because hospital food isn't always the greatest food, is it? And yet the hospitals should be a place to have the most nourishing, full meals because that's where our bodies are trying to heal real well. And so I think we still have some good work to do out there. And trying to be good examples and try to encourage this type of food and nourishment in any areas that we can increase better health. And our institutions and hospitals are top of the list for sure. Now, have you ever heard of intestinal flora or good bacteria? Okay, so everybody has bacteria. You have a combination of good and bad bacteria in your intestinal tract. And each person is different. It is different, it's structured differently for each person according to your environment, according to your diet, according to your lifestyle. It will adjust and change. So for example, a diet. If somebody is a meat eater versus someone who is a complete plant-based diet, the intestinal flora is going to be totally different for those two people. And I have people who sometimes say when I encourage to eat more beans, for example, very high in fiber, and I'll say, eat more beans, and they'll say, but I can't eat beans. I get a lot of gas and heartburn, and I don't digest beans. Beans aren't good for me, and I just can't eat them. So you know what? There are occasions, there are a few people that do have those issues. And sometimes it's just a matter of increasing digestion and getting it working better. But a lot of the cases is due to this intestinal flora. A meat eater is going to have different intestinal flora than a complete plant-based diet person. So if a meat eater suddenly jumps into tons of beans, they don't have that intestinal flora prepared to help with dealing with the effects of those beans. But a complete plant-based person who's used to the beans now, their body is used to it, and they have no issues. So sometimes making those changes have to be gradual, and your body has to change along with you as you make some of those changes. And so one way of building up that good intestinal flora to fight bacteria and to help make those changes faster is something like sauerkraut. Now, it is a type of fermentation, but it's not a fermentation to the point of alcohol. It's a fermentation to make that good bacteria for your intestinal tract. And so this probiotic type bacteria has a higher resistance to microorganisms, even to help you fight food poisoning. So sometimes, you know, if you're somebody that's super sensitive to a lot of things that you eat, it might mean just increasing the good intestinal flora. We can also choose to eat specific foods that help boost the immune system. One is broccoli. It is supercharged with vitamins and minerals. Broccoli is top of the list out of any food that we should eat. It has vitamin A, C, and E, as well as antioxidants. It's one of the healthiest vegetables to put on your table. Spinach as well is a very good choice. It's high in vitamin C, packed with numerous antioxidants and beta-carotene. Usually we think of beta-carotene as something that's orange or red or yellow, but even our greens have beta-carotene. This little joke says, great, he cut himself. Now we're all going to start crying. Anyways, have you heard of Goji Berries? Yes, very powerful. Again, powerful antioxidant. So what are antioxidants? This is where it's going and putting out all these little fires that might, in your cells, the bad cells, and helps to keep you from getting cancer specifically. It supports healthy liver function, normal kidney function. And you know, goji berries will actually help a chronic dry cough, somebody who has a constant cough, increasing in those antioxidants, but goji berries have a property to help with that. It'll improve disease resistance, stimulate your immune system, high in vitamin C, carotene, iron, calcium, and protein. So goji berries, when you go and eat these, don't expect them to taste like a strawberry. They have a different flavor to them, that's for sure. And usually we purchase them dried, and so they can be quite hard. So you can soak them a little bit in water or juice. They're great to add to smoothies, on your salads, in your cereal or porridge. Lots of great ways to include them. I think ginger has become one of my most favorite foods. And that is just because of all the power that's in it. If you look at that list, there's even more than that. But it is a strong antioxidant. It'll kill bacteria. It's an antiseptic. It's a natural antibiotic. Isn't that something? Even parasites, yeast, it's an anti-inflammatory, helps with throat pain, kills cold viruses, swelling, pain, chills, fever. What is there that it doesn't cover, hey? And then you get into all the cancer over here as well. But especially lung cancer, cell death, anti-tumor agent in leukemia cells. So just tons. Here is very interesting when it comes to prostate cancer. It has an enzyme. Ginger has an enzyme. And when you eat that with the enzyme, it will actually, in 1 or 2 hours, the prostate cancer cells will die. So ginger especially is excellent for prostate cancer. Cleanses the colon, reduces colon spasm and cramps. It's great for digestion, all your digestion symptoms. Morning sickness, we know that. If you're traveling, instead of doing gravel, do ginger. Excellent. Supports kidney health. High in potassium, manganese, building resistance to disease. Silicon, do you know what silicon is? It helps, it's a trace mineral that helps absorb calcium into the bones. And then vitamins A, C, E, B complex, magnesium, phosphorus, sodium, iron, zinc, calcium, beta carotene. Have I convinced you all to go and eat some ginger? One of my favorite teas to make when you are sick is to take some peppermint mint tea, add a slice of fresh ginger to that, squeeze in some lemon and a touch of honey, and that is the most immune-boosting tea that you can drink. I know some people like to throw garlic in there too, so you could do that, and cayenne. But without the garlic and cayenne, it's actually a very tasty tea to just enjoy on a regular basis and fight off any infection or disease or viruses you might have. Beta carotene, vitamin A. So again, anything that's red, orange, yellow specifically helps fighting cancer. And so I'm sure you can think of a number of fruits and vegetables that contain this. But ounce for ounce, red bell peppers have twice as much vitamin C, I should say, as well as being a rich source of beta carotene as oranges. You know, when it comes to red peppers and even green peppers, but red peppers, bell peppers should be on top of the list when you are sick. I remember when my husband, again, when we first got married, very rarely did he get sick. But this one time, he got sick, and yeah, boy, did we pay for it. And so here he was there, and he's sniffling, and he says, "Get me some water and a bag full of peppers." And I thought, wow, he must be dying. I mean, who wants a bag full of peppers? So I got him these peppers and water, and you know, the next morning you would never know he was sick the day before, and he was up and gone to work. And so peppers are very high, not just the vitamin C, but the beta carotene. So the two combined is what makes it so potent. So vitamin C, we know, of course, for colds, but also for cancer again. Anything building the immune system, right? So we always think of the citrus fruits. But lemons, I don't have lemons on there, but lemons are super high in vitamin C, and they're actually better than your oranges when you're sick, because oranges have natural sugars, even though it's natural, which is good, but it has the sugars in it, whereas a lemon does not. So adding lemon juice to your water. So what are some benefits of a lemon? Basically, lemons will cleanse the body, specifically the liver. And usually when we do a type of a cleanse or detox, the liver is usually at the forefront of that. And so a lemon will do that. And not only will it cleanse, but it will repair. So as it's pulling these toxins out, it's also repairing the body. And that's what's so great about it. If someone has a fever, you can put some lemon juice into the water, cold water, and then when you're wiping them down with it, that lemon penetrates through their pores and will actually help break a fever. So include your lemon juice in that water. It's a powerful germicide on a number of strains of the flus. A local antiseptic for offensive bad breath because it aids in digestion, and it can destroy at least 20 different germs. It helps cut apart and remove mucus in the throat. So if you think about singers and speakers that'll suck on a lemon first, same thing when you have a cold. It'll cut that mucus. Contains high amounts of ascorbic acid. It is a mighty immune booster. And interesting, when you think of a lemon, we usually think of it as very acidic, don't we? It's kind of acidy. But as soon as it hits your saliva, it becomes alkaline. And so lemons are number one for alkalizing the body. Do we want to be alkaline? Yes. If we're not alkaline, that's when disease and sickness can set in. So we want to be alkaline. Do you know, though, that there's one time in your life, only one time that you should ever be acidic? Do you know when that is? Any guesses? When you're dead. And the reason is because you will decompose, right? And go back to dirt. So unless you want to be decomposing as you're still walking and talking, we want to be alkaline. And so lemons are a great way to be alkaline. Put it on your salad, put it in your water, however you can use it. Now, what about turmeric? Have you heard a lot about turmeric lately? It's really kind of hitting the market right now. But you can use just the powder. The turmeric is a root, and it can be dehydrated and put into a powder, and so you can buy it in capsules or tablets. It can be more expensive that way, but there's the active ingredient in turmeric called curcumin. And so when you're buying a supplement, it'll be called curcumin, but some people don't realize it's actually turmeric. So in the capsule, that active ingredient is what's been capsulized and very potent. But you can just use the powder, and if you were to take in 1 teaspoon per day, this is what you would get for it. In 1 teaspoon, it will increase your immune system by 80%. So if you're fighting a cold or feeling something coming on, down goes the turmeric now, right? It'll increase your mood by 63%. So if you have someone in your home who's in a bad mood, you know, just to serve them a cup of turmeric tea and you'll be okay. Your good cholesterol can be increased by 29%. Your vision by 14%, and that's because of the beta-carotene, right? It will also lower your risk of heart disease by 13%, stomach bloating, because it helps aid digestion, by 50%, and your joint aches by 58%. And that's how it's mainly promoted today, is for the inflammation and pain, right? So if you have arthritis and you have chronic back pain, if you have knee pain, try the curcumin or the turmeric and see how you do. And the reason it helps with pain is because it removes the inflammation that's causing the pain. So do you know how, for example here, where it says it'll decrease your risk of heart disease by 13%, heart disease is comprised of the artery, the lining of the arteries being inflamed. And so here we are, the turmeric or the curcumin removes inflammation, and that's what helps decrease that risk of heart disease. Pretty neat, isn't it? And so turmeric, by the way, you can also put on your food, sprinkle on your food, and so just getting into using a bit more of it. A teaspoon of turmeric isn't always the easiest to put down the hatch. And so that's why a lot of people like the capsules. But this is what I've learned to do. When I first tasted turmeric, I thought, well, it's a nice, pretty, bright yellow, and I thought apple juice is yellow, I'll just stir it in there and it'll taste great. And I drank it, and my stomach came out my throat, and I never did that again. So the way I can do it is I need to put it into some hot water and make like a tea, and as I drink it, I think soup, and then it goes down easier. But if I do a half a teaspoon, it works well. So I'll do a half a teaspoon. If I'm not well, I'll do a half a teaspoon in the morning and a half a teaspoon at night, and that'll make that difference. A lot of people who are trying to lose weight, it'll actually cause your fat cells to vibrate, and you will shrink fat cells by taking in turmeric. I see everyone's pens and paper going crazy now. It's like, cool, now I love turmeric. And so actually just taking turmeric will help us, especially in the abdominal area, can help burn that fat. And so that's another bonus to turmeric. Okay, moving on, garlic. So everyone knows garlic is another wonderful food. It's a natural antibiotic. It has an anti-clotting activity. So when your red blood cells become sticky and begin to clump together, now you're at risk for strokes or blood clots and so forth. So garlic is a natural way to keep your red blood cells smooth, free-flowing, and not clumping and sticking together. But again, anti-tumor, antiseptic, antifungal, anti-heart. By the way, cancer we know now is fungus and yeast based. So we want things that are anti-yeast and antifungal. And it makes sense because we see cancer rising, but we're also seeing fungus, people with fungus conditions, and candida yeast out of control. And so that makes sense, doesn't it? Heart disease, it helps. This is excellent for lowering blood pressure. In my store, my health food store, I have a very small section of supplements, and the rest of it is food. And that's why I'm pleased to call it a health food store. Because too many, you walk in and it's all just pills, right? And people want that. And they'll walk in and they want the pill. And so instead, I like to promote food, because that's what we were designed to take in, was food, right? But there's purpose and place for other things. And garlic, you can eat only so much garlic. And sometimes doing a capsule, a garlic capsules, if you can't get enough garlic in, will save you from doing the actual medication. It works wonderful for lowering blood pressures. So here we are again with those cells, those killer T cells. It'll stimulate, and that's the key, right? We need to stimulate those cells to make them work. Powerful detoxifier. Did you know garlic will eliminate mercury from the body? Have you heard of ALS? Okay, so ALS is becoming more common in a number of people being diagnosed. And they are now starting to do studies to see the connection to mercury. And they're labeling it more to the mercury in fish. People who eat a lot of fish are starting to have the higher risk of ALS. But we can get mercury from fillings and from other things, and so we're having issues with too much mercury in our systems. Garlic is an excellent way to try to get rid of that mercury. This says, yes, garlic and herbs can improve your cholesterol, but not garlic and herb potato chips. So that's something to keep in mind, you know. A lot of times, you know, I even have people who say to me, well, I don't understand, you know, I'm vegan. I eat no animal products. But if they're eating a bag of potato chips every day, it might be vegan, but it might not be the healthiest choice, right? And so just because they're garlic, same thing. You're probably not getting a lot of garlic, and especially the fact that garlic will lower your blood pressure, but the salt on them will raise it higher. So it doesn't count. Vitamin K. There's been a lot of talk on vitamin K lately too. And vitamin K is especially found in our green leafy vegetables. But it helps in the absorption of calcium, but we're also finding that it's connected to vitamin D. We have a lot of vitamin D deficiency in our country. And when we lack vitamin K, it also contributes to that vitamin D not being absorbed. So we need to work on upping, especially our green veggies, for more vitamin K. Now I want to show you this. A lot of times people say to me, well, you know, I need more calcium, or I need more this or that. And how do I get it if I'm not taking it just in a pill form? A lot of times we don't realize the power of the plant food. And so just to give you an idea, 1 cup of cooked kale has 50 milligrams of vitamin C and 13 IUs of vitamin E. That doesn't sound like a lot, does it? I mean, if you were to take a supplement of vitamin C, the average is how much? 500 milligrams, right? And vitamin E is usually around 400 IUs. And so if you compare it to that, some people say, wow, I have to eat like, 15 cups of cooked kale every day. But what we don't realize, it's not in that molecular form. It's been broken down. Your body doesn't have to break anything down here. It is instant nutrition absorption. The body sees it. It knows what to do with it. And when that happens, the antioxidant, alone just the antioxidant potential of 1 cup of kale is equivalent to 800 milligrams of vitamin C and 1,100 units of vitamin E. Isn't that something? Yes? No. Question was, does kale have to be cooked or can you eat it raw? You can eat it raw, for sure. Yeah. The thing is, when it's saying cooked there, is maybe because it's more packed into that 1 cup. So you would fit more in, but for their measurement that they did for the study is all. But yes, cooked or raw is good. Now, kale can be really firm, and so massaging it, when you chop up kale, if you're going to use a little olive oil or just a little water, and massage it with your hands, and it'll soften those fibrous tissue that's in there, and just soften it right up, and then you can enjoy eating it a bit better. But it's very good fiber for us and very good nutrients. Okay, so you knew I was going to come to this, right? So avoid foods that weaken or destroy your immune system. And those pictures are not there to make you crave it, okay? So processed foods, sugary foods and drinks, fried foods, mucus-producing foods such as dairy products, animal products in general will make your body acidic. And now you know you don't want to be acidic, right? And additives and preservatives. So whatever we can do to minimize weakening or destroying the body is the route to go. And sometimes people say, you know what, I really don't like vegetables, or I really don't like salad. It's interesting to note that your taste buds on your tongue will change. Every few weeks, it'll change. And you know how it changes? It changes according to the food that you eat. So you might not like salad, but if you forced yourself to eat salad for a few weeks, believe it or not, within like 3 to 4 weeks, you will, if you stopped, you would crave a salad. You will crave eventually, or enjoy, I shouldn't say crave because it's not an addiction, but you will want it. You will long for it. But if you were to eat chips and chocolate and this type of thing, pretty soon you'll want more and more and more because your taste buds change accordingly. So don't get discouraged if there's something you don't like. Keep trying and you will learn to like it in most cases. So what happens with sugar when it weakens your white blood cells? So your white blood cells, they're the ones that go out, right? Fight on your behalf, kill off any infections and so forth. So if you were to eat no sugar, every white blood cell would be able to destroy about 14 bacteria, okay? Now, if you were to eat 6 teaspoons of sugar, now each of your white blood cells can only attack and kill off 10 bacteria. 12 teaspoons, now each white blood cell will kill off 5.5. So what's happening is it actually immobilizes or paralyzes your white blood cells. Sugar will paralyze your white blood cells so it can't go out and attack. 18 teaspoons, every white blood cell can now kill off only 2 bacteria. What kind of immune system do you have at this point? Not much, right? So, question for you. How many teaspoons of sugar do you think the average person consumes in a day? Any guesses? What's that? 100? No, that's a lot, but the average person. 25, right on. Who said that? You get a gold sticker. 25 teaspoons of sugar a day, and that might sound crazy, but it is true. If you think about 1 can of pop has 8 to 10 teaspoons of sugar, and if you are a pop drinker, how quickly those 25 teaspoons can add up. You know, there was once this, I remember this nutrition program long ago of this lady that did this experiment. She went into the grocery store and she tried to shop for things that had no sugar. And she came out and she would show everything had sugar, sugar, sugar. Even frozen hash browns had sugar. Canned vegetables, sugar. And it came right down to one product that she said did not have sugar. And you know what it was? Can of dog food. And her point was the dogs are eating healthier than us. But they'll put sugar into things for preservative, but also they are smart. They will put sugar in so that you crave it more and you'll want to eat it more. Did you know that Sifto salt used to have sugar in it? Until diabetics caught on to that and then they had to pull it out. But even salt had sugar. Ketchup, ounce for ounce, has the same amount of sugar as ice cream. So there's sugar hidden in so many different areas that we don't always realize. Okay, we'll move off the sugar now. I've depressed you enough. Here are some herbs and other supplements. Oh, I better say, because this question always comes up later. What about honey? What about maple syrup? What about fruit? Natural sugars do not have the same effect on your white blood cells as refined sugars do, okay? Now, too much of those natural sugars will. Fresh fruit? No. As long as you're eating the fiber and everything with it, it won't because it goes into your bloodstream at nice, slow levels. But juice, when you've removed that fiber, it can become an issue for you, okay? And honey, even in the Bible it says honey is good for you, but not too much, right? So within reason, when, a lot of times when we think about self-control or some of these things, I always hear people say, yes, it's okay, as long as it's within reason, or what's the words people use? Within moderation, thank you, right? That's correct. So we're talking the good foods within moderation. But do you think God is saying to eat the bad foods within moderation? No, that's right. So we have to kind of rethink some of those things, because we always think, well, within moderation, a little bit won't hurt us. But if it's bad, right? And so within moderation, we're talking of the good things. Okay, herbs and other supplements that prove to be helpful. Some of you might have already tried some of these things when you get sick. Echinacea was a big roar for how many years? And we know it builds the immune system. Oregano, has anyone ever used oregano? Yes, excellent. Now, oregano doesn't necessarily build the immune system, but it'll actually fight and kill off the viruses and the bacteria. So it's anti-yeast, anti-parasite, antifungal, antiviral. And so that's what's so great about it, because a lot of times when you have a cold, it's a virus. And what does the doctor say? It has to run its course, right? But oregano will kill it off and help it to move faster. So there's a number of different things. You've heard of cold FX? You can actually just take ginseng, because that's the main component of it. And you already know about ginger and all those other things we talked about. Nano silver water is colloidal silver, if you've ever heard of it. But nano silver means it's tinier particles. So if you have a respiratory infection, if you have a burn or a cut, I had a lady that had a wound on her leg. It was deep almost to the bone. It was probably about 4 inches long and 2 inches wide. And the hospital and the doctors and nurses were coming in after she went home every day, bandaging it and trying to heal this wound for probably 2 months, and they were afraid it was gangrene and going really bad. We used the nano silver water on it, and then eventually in a gel form. And just the other day I saw the picture, and it's a 1/2 inch, and it's the most surface scratch now. It's pretty much healed up, and it's amazing. And that lady would have lost her leg. So this works fabulous, especially people who have diabetes and end up with a wound on their foot that won't heal. It works great. And you know what else works great for that is honey. Honey has natural antibacterial properties, and it will heal as well. See that ugly weed, that thistle that everyone hates? It is priceless when it comes to your health. It is super for the way of cleansing your liver especially, but it's also helpful for diabetes, seasonal allergies, metabolic syndrome, gastrointestinal problems, and even cancer. So this is no longer, this milk thistle is no longer a yucky weed. It is potent, good stuff. All right, so yeah, to do with the cancer again, the anti-cancer potential is very, very high for a number of areas of the body. And how, at the bottom right there, you'll see that it works as the toxic effects. It'll help if someone is actually having chemotherapy and radiation as well. It's a great way to get the bad out of the system after those treatments. So it can actually be used in conjunction with as well. All right, I guess we'll just quickly, I have a few more minutes and I don't want to keep you too late tonight, but let's just mention a couple of these with the hydrotherapy. Everyone's heard of hydrotherapy, so you know, growing up when your mom or grandma would put that wool sock around your throat and your chest, it wasn't crazy, it wasn't in your head, it really works. And I can talk a little bit more, give you, we could even maybe get you a handout towards the end of the weekend, actually, that I had forgotten to do for you. But hydrotherapy is the most powerful non-poisonous means of quickly moving the nourishing, healing blood into and out of the diseased body part. It's been used for many, many years. And in 1918, the flu, those that did the hydrotherapy in the one section of the world survived that flu when thousands died otherwise. So it's been around for many years. How does it work? It actually works like a pumping action. So the heat causes dilation or enlargement of the blood vessel, right? So it'll pull deep congestion and impurities to the surface. And now the cold will constrict it. So your heat is opening it and the cold constricting it. And so you've got that pumping action to pump the old blood out and the new blood in. So when it comes to a foot bath, depending what your issues are, right, the heat will increase blood flow, the cold will decrease blood flow. The heat will decrease muscle spasm and pain, and so will the cold decrease. Decreases stiffness and arthritis, but the cold will increase stiffness and arthritis. So depending what you're treating, you do have to be, careful with that to know whether to apply hot or cold. But for a foot soak, ideally, is that pumping action again. So going from the hot to the cold and back and forth to get that pumping action. And your feet is actually the pump to your heart. So if you can do that with your feet, it'll help lower your blood pressure. If suddenly you have too high a blood pressure and you're wondering how to get it down, do your foot soak between the hot and cold, and that'll quickly bring down your blood pressure into that normal state. So when a client receives hot and cold treatment to the feet and legs, it creates a pumping action to better return blood to the heart and will increase circulation. So if you're someone that gets jittery legs at night or edema around your ankles, try this and that'll give you that pumping action. By the way, let me mention, when I'm saying from hot to cold, the handout we give you will tell you what temperatures approximately. But we are not saying put it in as hot as you can stand it and then as cold as you can stand it. It doesn't have to be a huge difference. You will feel the difference between hot and cold when you're going back and forth. I have seen people return from our sanitariums with burns all over their body because they were not told to not do it scalding hot. And the one lady told me that she literally stood in the shower each morning and grinned and bared at the heat as much as she could stand until she had welts all over her body. So we're not saying that. When we're saying hot, we're talking like a hot shower, a nice warm shower temperature, and then going to the cold, not to a point that gives you a shock, right? In the shower, you don't want to be too big of a shock. It could give you a heart attack. So just adjusting it so it feels, whoop, that's a little bit cold, but not to a point that you feel like you jumped in a polar bear dip or something. So, okay. And so, of course, there's a number of heat compresses and that you can do that we kind of mentioned. I won't go too much into that. The hot tub is another great way if you're into using the hot tub, but always end with a cool shower. So even at home, if you're having a nice hot bath, end with a cool shower to close your pores. If you've ever heard of an infrared sauna, fabulous, fabulous for detoxing. So the far infrared heat. And so you're going to get, it penetrates the skin right to the depth of the fat cells. And so a lot of times toxins will be stored in your fat cells. And so this is right at that depth to be able to pull those toxins out. It'll strengthen your immune system by inducing a fever, giving you a bit of a fever. And when you're sick and you have a fever, that is the way of your body attacking and eliminating those viruses. When you heat yourself up like that, it also gets your pulse rate going, and it's equivalent to exercising. The heart receives a similar workout too, and the body perspires the same amount during a 20 to 30 minute in this sauna session as if you had ran 8 kilometers. Isn't that something? So you're getting the exercise benefit, but you're also getting that detox benefit. Give me the power to create a fever, and I will heal any disease. Absolutely. The fever, we used to always fear, right? Tylenol right away as soon as we think we might have a little bit of a fever. But the fever is the way of the body fighting that infection. I'm not saying wait until you go into convulsions, but a bit of a fever is a good natural thing for the body. And your blood cells will increase. Your white blood cells, look at that, will increase 200 to 300 times, including if you have low red blood cell count, it's a great way to do it. So here you are, you can see the macrophages again reaching out to engulf that bacteria, right? So your killer cells, they trigger a chemical process puncturing the cell membrane of bacteria and destroying infected cells before viruses inside have time to multiply. I want to show you this one here. Look at that. There's the cancer cell, and here's your killer T cells moving in on that cancer cell. Watch what happens to it. See, it's attacking it. Now look, there's the dead cancer cell. Isn't that amazing? We all have cancer cells, and so we all need to be constantly fighting it. When people say, oh, you know what, he has to eat this way because he has cancer. Well, the truth is we should be all eating that way, right? We should be all treating our bodies as if we're constantly fighting something, because the truth is when we're eating that way to fight it, that's the most nutritious way for our body overall. Vitamin D. So this is something we're always pumping to. And in Canada, we only absorb vitamin D in around June to September. The other months, when you see the sun, you're not absorbing vitamin D. So this is one supplement that we do have to take, unfortunately. So if I was to promote any supplement or any pills or whatever, it would be vitamin D. And we need to have more of it. We know vitamin D fights for our immune system. And so I want you to notice this here. You see this reference range. Ideal range is here. We want to actually be in the top 2/3 of normal range. Unfortunately, they don't like to test our vitamin D levels anymore, so we don't know where we are. And most of us are under 75. 10, 5, 15, that's how low many are. And so we want to be in the upper 2/3. That's a huge difference, isn't it? And why? Because when you are in the upper 2/3, you will prevent 65% of all cancers. Again, another reason I feel that cancer is on such a huge rise is because our vitamin D is so low in so many of us. So again, when you get sick and you have a cold, take extra vitamin D. How much? Medically, they first said 1,000 every day. Now they're saying 2,000 every day. And most of us health practitioners say 5,000 to 10,000 a day. I've taken workshops with the top-notch scientists who study vitamin D, and they say, do not fear it like we've been told. You could take 150,000 every day for a number of days before it's going to be toxic. So 5,000 is very safe to be doing. Yes? You can. You can still overdose on vitamin D, that's correct, and that's why that scare was always out there. But for majority of people, we're not even in the normal range. So unless you're doing something like 50,000 every day for a period of time, yes, it can be a risk. And that is when you want to have your blood tested if you can and see where your levels are. But in the US, they even sell the 25,000 per capsule or 10,000 per capsule, but in Canada, it's only 1,000, so. No, this is just vitamin D. Yeah. But most vitamins, if you take things by supplement, you always risk overdosing. So we do have to be careful. Even B12, we're usually told to promote a B12 supplement if you are vegan. I don't tend to punch that out there. I kind of let people see if they need it or not, because you can have too much B12 and it'll give you the same symptoms as not enough B12. So I prefer that we can be tested. So I like people to be tested for that and see. Question? Oh, yes. Good question. The question was, do I recommend vitamin D2 or 3? We know vitamin D2 is vegan, and D3 is usually not, but it's becoming more, there are more options for D3 being vegan now as well. It can come from mushrooms, and it's sheep lanolin, which is the oil in the sheep fur, and they'll take that and lab culture it, and then it'll become vegan. D3 is higher absorption. D2 is less absorption. You can take either one. If you want to take D2, I tell people take double. because it's harder to absorb. So if you plan take 2,000, take 4,000 of D2. Just double up on it. Question? Oh, sorry. Yes, your body is right. It is fat soluble, and yes, your body can store it. But the problem is most of us have way too little. There's nothing in store. Yeah, but that's right. Absorb it from the sun during those months is great. That's right. And then ideally it would be to absorb it and take us through this season that we don't get it. But so many of us are way under in the summer that we never still even get to our level. So, but you will be taking less in the winter, in the summer than you would in the winter. If you're getting lots of sunlight, you don't need as much, of course, during those summer months. Yes, this is true. If you're wearing sunscreen, it'll stop that absorption of vitamin D. Yeah. And so, what about sunscreen? There is good sunscreens out there too. Natural ones that you can buy that don't have the chemicals. But we still need, I'm not telling you to go out and lay in the sun and turn into a lobster, right? But we do need to get the sun without always the sunscreen on so we can absorb that vitamin D. All right, I won't get too much into a lot of this, but adrenal glands, you've heard of your adrenal glands. So when you're stressed, your adrenal glands become stressed out, and there's lots of symptoms that go with that. I can talk more about that tomorrow if you would like, or answer questions on that. Women especially tend to be in that category for adrenal fatigue, and men can fit in there too. And that's very hard on the immune system. Many doctors don't recognize adrenal exhaustion unless the glands become so compromised that disorders such as the Addison's disease or Cushing's syndrome occur. Basically, in many cases, by the time a person has such adrenal fatigue, it's the same as having a nervous breakdown. And so at that point, it takes a bit of work to come back, to recover from that. We need to eat good food, real food, in the amounts that are required by our body. We must get plenty of sleep. We must rejuvenate. Your adrenals are burnt out. It takes time to heal those. Vitamin B and C are essential for adrenal glands. When your adrenal glands are stressed, it'll burn your B vitamins, and your Bs are what give you your energy. Wrapping up at the end here now, have a positive attitude. Do you believe that plays a role on your immune system? Sure does. Sure does. And so how we look at things can make such a difference. It's interesting. Some of you might have experienced this before. And I know I did. I will tell you, I actually have just come through thyroid cancer. And I was diagnosed with it last October. And when I was diagnosed, it hit me hard. Because I thought, here I am, this health advocate, and now I'm diagnosed with this. How could this happen? And it hit me so hard that I'm not a person to suffer depression or, stress or panic or any of that. But wow, did I go into a little bit of a swirl for a couple of weeks there. And the interesting thing is, it sure opened my eyes to what your thoughts can do to your body. That morning, I was feeling great. I thought I was healthy as any other day. I ate a good breakfast. I was at my store. I was full of energy. I went in to see my doctor for a result, and I came out thinking I was going to die the next day. And I felt so awful. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I suffered extreme. And I've always thought of myself with working with my clients who had cancer or other diseases, that I always thought I was a compassionate person, and that I was, trying to encourage them and support them. But I didn't understand truly what a person goes through until I went through it myself. And I think God allowed me that experience. At least this is what I'm taking from it now. I was able to go through that experience in hopes that I can be a better person yet to my clients and those that I meet, and be more compassionate and be more caring yet. But the number one thing when you are fighting anything is your positive attitude and how you're going to go about looking at things, because your mind plays a big role on a lot of that. And so we have to have that positive attitude. I should tell you the outcome. I had surgery, and I am clear, and I was given 97% it'll never return. And I've been blessed, and I thank the Lord for that, for sure. So, yeah. And you know, it is interesting. We can do as much as we can do, and you wonder, well, why do we get sick? You know, there's sin in our world, isn't there? And maybe if I didn't care for myself the way I have, I've been told I may have had other issues. I would have had to have further treatments or whatever. And so I have to just say, you know, I am grateful still for the way I have lived and what I have done, because who knows how the turnout could have been different. But, you know, we have to also realize that there is sin in this world, and we can do what we can do and then just trust the Lord and walk the rest of that way. But we have to do our part, don't we? And I want to encourage each of you as well that when there's others who go through these experiences, don't look down upon them as, oh, you know, they must have did something wrong, or they're not living the life proper. Because we're all going through different things, and Satan knows how to attack us and when to attack us. But if we just keep positive and keep looking to Christ, we'll come through it, and we'll be stronger people because of it, right? We're being prepared for that final victory. And so I had these little cartoons throughout it, and they might not have been that funny as this lady is laughing, but a merry heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. It's really important to laugh. It's important to be happy and to be cheerful. It goes a far ways. God has made me laugh, and all who hear will laugh with me. And that was Sarah. So laughter builds your immune system. It improves your immune cell function, helps you ward off illness, and decreases your chances of cancer. It'll improve circulation. It'll fight infection. It even blocks pain by using the body's own painkiller. It'll relax the muscles in your face and your stomach area. Scientists estimate 100 chuckles a day could be the same effect on the cardiovascular system as 10 minutes worth of exercise. So the best part, it has no side effects, but it is contagious. And so to end, I have to end with one more little cartoon. It says, what I'm about to tell you is going to change your life forever. Are you really sure you want to know it? Hopefully what I've shared with you today will change your life in some way. I always say that if you want to learn something, teach it. And that's the reason I enjoy teaching so much. I'm here with the rest of you still learning. And I think that this is an area we can never stop growing in, right? There's always some form of improvement that we can do to better ourselves. And then when you've been touched and you've been changed because of things, you can share that with your fellow man as well. Was there a question? Yes?
Yes, two questions. One, where do you get Goji Berries? And two, does lime have the same benefits as lemon?
Okay, good questions. Yes, lime does have the same benefits as lemons. So you can enjoy limes in place of lemons and vice versa. Okay, so it has the same potency to cleanse and to heal and to alkalize and all the above. And goji berries, they're dried, so you can pretty much find them now in any grocery store even, in their packages. I don't know if it has to be a health food section but most of them sell it. Yes? Oh, the Bulk Barn even sells it. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, and health food stores, of course. Yes? Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. Right. That's a good question. Organic versus non-organic. And what about the money and all of that? So putting it this way, we know that chemicals, pesticides, all these type of things will directly affect our immune system, right? And affect the body. And so anytime we can decrease that, the better off we are. But that doesn't always mean that it's something we can do financially and all the above, like you said. I encourage people in the summer to grow their gardens. And I think we've heard that before in some books, haven't we? To encourage us to grow gardens. And so if we can do that, or if you know people that grow things, or a farmer's market, great chance to stock and load up your freezer. But just choose things that are maybe higher risk of pesticides and go with those more for the organic. Use the veggie washes, that can be helpful as well. So, you know, again, just doing what you can do. I know some people are really strict and won't do anything but organic, and that is great. But that doesn't always work for everyone, and I'm not 100% organic as well. When you have a big family and lots of kids, and you know, it's not always something that we can do. But in the summer for the gardens, and we fill our freezer, and that does a good bulk of the majority. Really? Okay, so that program you were watching, was it on the internet? Oh, it was TV. The Compare. Oh, okay, so there you go. So maybe it was just comparing the protein? Because goji berries are known for their antioxidant properties especially. But I don't know how barley compares for antioxidants. The nutrients, okay. Yes, and there are fads for sure that come and go that way. Yeah. Quinoa is a superfood for sure. Yeah. Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Eating local is important. True, true. Yeah, I agree. Eating what is local is important, but I think everything has different properties, right? Don't get on a kick of just one thing. Like quinoa I love because it's a complete protein. Barley is not a complete protein, but barley I'm sure has other nutrients that quinoa doesn't. So it's about balance and variety is the key. Yes? Oh, can I recommend like a book you're saying or something? Yes, so from what I shared with you today, what would be a good book? I'm sure one of my favorite books, I have to see if he's got it reprinted again, but many of you have probably heard of Dr. Neil Nedley, and he wrote a book called Proof Positive, and that is my favorite book. For my college, I used that as a student, as a textbook, but he's having to reprint it, and I don't know if it's out in print yet, but that is a super book on this. I'll put my thoughts into what other resources I would recommend, and will you be here tomorrow? Okay, I'll try to recommend some resources tomorrow as well. Yeah. All right. Is there another question? Yes. Making teas. Does it kill enzymes? No. It depends what you're making a tea with. So, for example, turmeric, most things will hold up to heat. Vitamin C is your only exception. Vitamin C will get killed off easily with heat. And so if I'm adding lemon juice to something, like for example the tea I told you, I like to put a peppermint tea bag in and the ginger and put in my hot water, let it steep, and then after I'll just add my lemon juice to that. So anytime I can try to protect my vitamin C is important, but otherwise like with enzymes and stuff, when it comes to teas, yeah, most of the time it's not a big deal. If you're cooking actual food, yes, that can kill it more. Oh, water bottles. Plastic water bottles? Yeah, no, that's, and you know, that's true. Plastic water bottles, the chemicals from the plastic can go into the water, And women especially are at high risk to do with menopause, because you actually get these fake estrogens coming from that plastic that'll throw off their hormone balance. And it'll also increase the estrogen, the bad estrogen, to increase some of our cancers and that too. So yeah, ideally it's not the best. If you can store your water in glass or stainless steel or something like that, it's better. But yeah, at home, if you can get a filtering system and then put it in your own bottle, you're further ahead. All right.
Check. I would like to invite everyone to please stand. Something that I learned today is that there is always room for improvement, right? There is always room for improvement. And I think that one of the things that we should remember as we sing our last song is that there's also room for improvement when it comes to our walk with Jesus. And as we sing this song, it's called Lord, I Need You. This is our theme song for this weekend. I would like us to truly meditate on these words, because there's room for improvement when it comes to getting close to Him. So let's sing this song together. Lord, I need you. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing us into your house, bringing us into your presence, and reminding us of these things that are going to help us in our health, and also reminding us through this song that the most important thing for us is to be close to you and to say from the bottom of our hearts, Lord, we need you, for you are my defense and my righteousness. Oh Lord, how much we need you. Bless everyone here and bring us tomorrow to continue being in your presence and learning at your feet. In your name we pray. Amen. God bless you all.